Welcome to GAA Sports Talk. I'm your host, Alex Gamer. I'm with Craig Smith again. This is kind of an impromptu episode. It'll be our episode number 4. We said we were going to do one last month in our last episode, but I kind of got busy with school, and then I got sick, and now I've got some time to kill, so it looks like we're going to be doing one now. We're just going to focus again. We're going to focus on the NHL and hockey in this one, unless there's any really big news out of the other sports that I'm not thinking of right now.
The World Series starts tomorrow.
Yeah, we can start with that, I guess. We'll leave that till the end. Let's start with the start of the NHL season and a little bit of the preseason, because we never really got to talk about that. How do you think the training camps in general went, and were you surprised by anything in the preseason?
I can talk about the preseason that I saw the closest, and that was obviously the Ottawa Senators. Mika Zibanejad getting sent down and Stefan DaCosta staying up was quite a surprise, especially to Zibanejad. But I agree with Coach Paul McLean, and Zibanejad did not have a good camp, but he was called back up today. So that's the only one I really paid that close attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto had a good swing through the preseason as well, and took that right into the start of the regular season. And a couple of teams started off good, and
Okay.
With the Buffalo Toronto line brawl.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. What did you think of that, and what after that all transpired with John Scott there? What did you think of that entire kind of situation?
For Phil Kessel to only get 3 preseason games that don't even matter for that huge hack, why even bother? The preseason doesn't matter, so what's the point of suspending someone in the preseason? I didn't see the full altercation from start to finish, but
well, it started with a fight. I didn't watch the game, but I saw the highlights. It started with a fight between Jamie Devin and someone on Buffalo, and it was really I thought the Buffalo guy started it, and then Jamie Devin just kind of knocked him out, and then John Scott got on and instead of sending out more enforcers. Randy Carlyle said after the game, he was like, well, I wanted to kind of diffuse the situation, and John Scott tried. Phil Kessel apparently said, I'm gonna kill you now, right? And John Scott, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", somewhere in that range. He's a big dude, so if a guy like that came up to me on the ice and was like, I'm gonna kill you now, I'd be swinging my stick for the fences too, right? And I'm not agreeing with what Phil Kessel did, but at the same time, John Scott went up to Kessel. Maybe someone that can actually defend themselves, like Phaneuf, for instance, where if I don't even know if he was in the game, but definitely not Toronto's top player.
Yeah, I think Phil Kessel can defend himself a little bit more than just the hacking of the stick. But I agree. If someone's coming at me that's probably a foot taller than me, then I would do anything I can to defend myself. But when they don't react, or when they kind of pull back after one slash, then maybe I would stop. Don't need to go full balls to walls and cut a tree down, as some of those memes were doing.
Well, the one thing that did disappoint me about that entire thing was David Clarkson jumping off the bench there. It was really unnecessary for him to. I know his reasonings behind it, and if I was on the bench, I would have probably tried to jump off the bench too. But he can't be doing that stuff, and I'm kind of glad just accepted that 10-game ban that he got, 10-game suspension. So.
Well, it's automatic. There's nothing he could do about it. Mm-hmm. I don't know why he would even think about
Well,
feeling it.
I know Paul Bissonnette had a 10-game suspension for the same kind of thing, and he appealed it and only got 3 games. But
well, that's because there was no cameras watching Paul Bissonnette, and there was Leafs TV coverage of the Buffalo-Toronto game.
Okay.
That's the joys of having hockey in Phoenix. You don't get your preseason games on TV, and that's why the referees had like cameras on their helmets some nights.
Probably true.
Yeah.
All right. Any other big surprises coming to the preseason? I don't think so. I'm kind of surprised that Morgan. I can't say I'm really surprised, but Morgan Riley sticking with the Leafs was kind of a shock a little bit. I mean, they've got so many NHL quality defensemen in Toronto that he sat the first, I think, 3 games, and then played. So that was if you're gonna have him there, you gotta play him, right? But he's been playing every game since Mark Frazier got hurt. Other than that, go ahead.
He stepped up into Frazier's spot for now.
Mm-hmm.
You may see him sit a few games just so that they can extend his life there with the Leafs in case they want to send him back to the Marlies at some point, right? 'Cause they only have 9 games or whatever that they can stay up before getting sent down.
He can't go back to the Marlies, so he's got to go back to junior. Yeah, he's only 19.
Oh, right.
So he's got to go to junior.
Yeah, so then they're going to keep him up for a bit, at least, and see how it pans out with him. And the Leafs are doing well with him in the lineup, so I don't see them making too many changes.
Okay, so let's stay on the Maple Leafs here and talk about their hot start despite the numbers. What do you attribute their start to?
Their goalies, honestly. Like, the games that I've watched, Bernier and Reimer have both stolen the games. Their losses, Colorado, they probably shouldn't have lost. One of their wins against Minnesota, they probably shouldn't have won. So it's the goalies that are keeping them in this game because they're fighting for that number 1 job.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what Bernier does tonight.
Well, their puck possession and turnovers is astronomical. I mean, I think they had the most turnovers in the NHL. But saying that, they also had the most takeaways too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see them, be better with the puck a little bit. Other than that, there's really, I mean, their goalie's got to stand tall, and they've got to, tighten up defensively. And do you see anything else that's wrong with their game? Glaringly wrong with their game?
Again, I haven't watched all 9 games, but not glaringly wrong with their game. Like, they are capitalizing for sure on the chances, and that's what you need to do in a 60-minute game, or 65 if they've had, I think they've had 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, they've had 1.
Yeah, they had a shootout win
over Ottawa.
In that illegal shootout move that's only legal in the NHL. But regardless,
well, I mean, the NHL's it's supposed to be for
it's for the fans.
It's entertainment, right? And that's what the shootout's for. It's not because I mean, if they were gonna move it to something more serious, like having instead of having every game be a 3-point game. If you win, you get 3 points. If you lose, you get If they're gonna do something like that, I could see them taking it away in a shootout situation because it's illegal for a penalty shot, right? Yeah. But in something that's there to entertain the fans and bring the fans that maybe aren't watching hockey to watch hockey, it's perfectly fine, I think.
It still could decide a team's fate. Like, look at Winnipeg. How many points did they lose by or finish 9th by last season? 1 or 2, like, right? And it's shootout losses that make the difference.
Yeah, but then a team like that has to play, harder in overtime to win the game in overtime instead of letting it get to the shootout, which you see a lot of teams do. You see a lot of teams kind of trap out the 5 minutes and maybe extending the overtime to say 10 minutes or something instead of just the 5 4-on-4 that it is, right? Like that's all speculation on what do you think, since we're talking about early in the season, what do you think of the new high price?
Well, the refs are clearly still getting used to it. Judging by the Bernier goal last week, it looked like icing to me, like the hybrid icing. Like they got to the hash marks, right?
See, on a close play like that, like the way that I thought the rule was going to work was on a close play like that, they were. I thought they weren't going to wave it off. I thought they were going to let the players race for the puck more, and have the person, if the defenseman touched it first, then it was icing. If the forward touched it first, it wasn't. Right? Like that's what I thought the rule was going to be. Obviously, if it's a clear win, then it's a clear win. But
I thought the whole point of hybrid icing was to make sure that players aren't racing right to the boards, right?
Yeah, that's
where
true.
You get the injuries.
Yeah.
So they were racing to the hash marks. Now, Carolina beat them to the hash marks, but I think the puck was over before they even got to the hash marks. So,
it doesn't matter where the puck is, and it matters where the players are.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe it was a good call and a wave off, and Bernier just misplayed that puck then. Yeah,
and Bernier's got that's a goal he can't be allowing. Along with the goal against Colorado that the defenseman scored that went over his short side. That's a bad goal to allow.
But then he dives from post to post and stops other amazing shots. So
yeah,
it's a give and take.
How much do you think the new pads have affected goalies? The shorter pads.
We've definitely seen some odd goals so far. Jonathan Quick and Bernier. So it's affected them somewhat.
It's not like a standard. You cut this many inches off the pads. It's relative to how tall you are. So I mean, someone like Roberto Luongo didn't say lose as much as say like a Carey Price. Right, and I think
or a Ben Bishop or something
like
that. Right?
Yeah.
And you can see it in some goalies. Like, look at Craig Anderson. He's struggling. He's struggling for the start. And Robin Leonard, his backup, is also struggling because they both lost a lot on the pads. Now, I'm sure Craig Anderson can turn it around once he gets used to the pads, but who knows? Carey Price was struggling at the end of last season, so I don't think that the pads can be an excuse there. I don't know. It's got to affect him somewhat.
Has Carey Price really been struggling, though?
I don't think he has been really this year. Like, Montreal's 5-3.
Yeah.
So,
well, they only got 15 goals against, too, right? And
yeah.
So, by the stats, it doesn't look like he's struggling that much.
No.
Let's kind of move on here. How long till Buffalo? I'm looking at the standings right now. How long till Buffalo? Darcy Regier in Buffalo, or someone faces the Piper there, because they're 1-8 and 1, and there's rumors that Ryan Miller's asked to be traded and other things.
Well, you know what? Buffalo has been the same team. Like they haven't done the big blow up in Buffalo, and they haven't made the playoffs in a few years now. So it's almost time. Like 1-8, they finally got their first win like a week ago. And New Jersey's only got one win, but 3 overtime wins. So
yeah,
or 3 overtime losses rather. But how long? I don't know if you can put a date on it as of yet. Like, how are you going to blow up a team in the middle of the season anyway? You're not going to you do it closer to the trade deadline.
True, but how long till their general Darcy Regier is their general manager? Am I correct with that?
I believe so.
How long till he loses his job? Because I mean, there's only so much you can do. He fired the coach last year. You can't really be the coach now. It's time to kind of look elsewhere in the organization. It's either the players or the general manager, and sad to say. I mean, you're not going to get rid of all your players overnight, but you can fire your general manager and get someone else in there to maybe start blowing the team up.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty early. Like, I know Buffalo's already played 10 games, and that's tied for the most so far in the league. But when Peter Laviolette was let go in Philadelphia after 3 games, that was way too early.
Yeah, but that was carried over from last year and the preseason, right? Like, there was talk about him getting fired at the end of last year, and
then fire him at the end of last year. Don't give him 3 more games.
And Paul Hope.
Get the team to camp with the new coach.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to turn the team around. You're not going to turn the team around halfway into or not halfway, but a few games into the season, because now it takes too long to learn the coach's new ways. It takes too long, and they're going to be out of it by the time they learn their Craig Berube's position.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to blame one or two players on the team, but their goaltending has been awful. And I knew that we could talk about that going into the season with Steve Mason, who had one brilliant year in the NHL, and then kind of slid downhill from there. And Ray Emery's he's not the same Ray Emery that was once in Ottawa, and he was good last year in Chicago, but he's not good enough to not with the way his hip is to be a take a full 60 games or whatever they want to play him. And I mean, there's not much they can do.
Alex, when was the last time Philadelphia had any goaltending?
Yeah, that's true.
They haven't. There's never been a goaltending team, and that's a problem in this NHL, because you look at the top teams, and they all have stellar goaltending. You got Pittsburgh, Detroit, Toronto even.
Pittsburgh doesn't have stellar goaltending. Marc-Andre Fleury looks like he's just hanging in there, right? Like,
but you know what? When you have a half-decent backup, that can make up for it.
Yeah, I guess.
Although Thomas Vokoun is out right now, is he not?
Yeah, he's got club issue or something.
Yeah. But Fleury is holding his own, 20 goals against for the team. I don't know if it's for Fleury. But he doesn't need to, when the players are playing in front of him, he doesn't need to be that stellar goaltender. Mm-hmm. But when the team can rely on him, which they can, he is there to back them up.
Well, I mean, it allows, like Toronto, for instance, who's had stellar goaltending, or Colorado. Like Colorado last night in Pittsburgh, they had that, Jaguar was playing very, very well. And so they had, they could take kind of chances, right? That maybe if you don't have a goaltender you trust in, you can't take those chances, right?
Exactly.
So, but yeah, you're right. Philly they need a goaltender, and that's looking down the roster, they've got some very good young talent. Braden Shen.
They got some great bats too. Like, they picked up Vincent LeCavalier, but I have no idea why he chose Philadelphia.
Yeah, neither do I. Maybe it was the money thing, but he's making
But the
so
Flyers
much.
got rid of Danny Briere because they didn't have that much cash, right?
Yeah, and then they picked up Vincent LeCavalier, so it just doesn't.
Make sense.
Maybe it's a general manager change that they need, and they need to blow up their team too. What about the Rangers? They've been off this year. They haven't been playing well.
They have not had a home game yet. I don't know if you can point all the blame on that.
No.
But again, maybe it's a case of they're still learning Alain strategy, because they've been used to Torts, who is doing so in Vancouver with the Canucks, who are sitting out of a playoff spot right now, basically, but they're still picking up some wins. New York only has 2.
Well, Vancouver is only right now. They're in the wild card, or they're in the wild card race right now. They're only a point behind Los Angeles. It's still early in the season, but
yeah,
they're right there, and I think they'll be right there all year, whether they get it or don't. Depends on how the rest of the season pans out. But
Yeah, it's too early to look at standings, like, which is why you crazy Leafs fans make me laugh every day.
you know what, I haven't really been looking at the standings. You know, the Leafs are 6-3, and they've won some games they probably shouldn't have, and that's the marking of a good hockey team right there. Is a team that can win games that they really shouldn't be winning. At least, you know, that's the way that I'm viewing it. Is that, you know, the marking of a good hockey team and a maturing hockey team. You know, in the Leafs' case, because they're young, or they were young, is they're winning games they probably shouldn't be winning, right? And that's how I'm, you know, looking at it right now. And you know, I know it's still early in the season, and they're you know, like, they're not on top of their division, but they're, you know, they're right there. I mean, it's,
well, win tonight, you're top of your division again. But
yeah.
The difference is like, those are the games that make the difference at the end of the season. Those extra points that you pick up in the games that your goalie stole it, that you scored the goal in the last minute to tie it and send it to overtime, and then beat Edmonton in OT.
Or beat Ottawa in a shootout.
Yeah, or beat Ottawa in a shootout. Like, it's those games that matter in the end of the season when you're on the outside looking in and you only have 2 points to close in on a playoff spot, and you couldn't win those games early in the season. So,
well, I mean, and it gives them confidence that they can win games like that, and it gives them confidence that they're not out of games at all, right?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
So let's move down. What do you think about Colorado's hot start?
Can you give Patrick Roy all the credit? I don't know if you can. Like, does the coach actually win games for you? No, he doesn't. But he definitely put some fire under them.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like, you know, to bring in a Hall of Famer, you know, that played the game for, you know, 20 years or whatever he played the game, you know, and it's got a track record that's, you know, won 3 Stanley Cups or 4 Stanley Cups and 3 Conn Smythes straight. Like, you know, he knows the game inside and out, and to bring him in, it's been a big boost to that team, and it looks like it's been a big boost to their goaltending, which was a bit of an issue last year with, you know, whoever, Vermaloff and Jaguar.
Yeah, I think it's 3 cups and 4 Conn Smythes, and just the fire that he's lit under them. Like, if you look back at the first,
the other way around, it's 4 cups and 3 Conn Smythes.
I think he got more Conn.
I'm gonna look this up right now.
All right, well, I'll talk.
Okay.
Patrick Waugh definitely lit a fire under them, especially in the first game against Anaheim. You see the fight with Bruce Boudreau and Corey Perry, or Corey, I think might have been Getzlaff.
No, it was Corey Perry.
It was, okay. So just the fight with Perry, like, I can't blame Patrick Waugh for putting on the grinding line with 5 seconds left. You got to do that. You got to protect your team. And it wasn't Colorado that started pushing and shoving. It was Anaheim, because they were frustrated because they were down. So when Perry sits on the bench and chirps at Patrick Waugh is not going to let that happen. He's
never been the type of guy that was gonna, you know, stand back and let, you know, someone chirp him or something. And I have the stat here. He won the Cup in 86, 93, 96, and 01. And he won the Conn Smythe in 86, 93, and 01.
All right.
So I was right. It is 4 cups and 3.
Okay. But one of those Conn Smythes definitely came in a year he didn't win the Cup, right? Did you say that?
Nope. He won the Cup all 3 years.
Weird. Anyways, back to, like, he got fined for that.
Yeah.
When Boudreau and Perry were definitely the ones that started that. It's not Waugh's fault that he can take down the Honda Center. Like it's, I don't know. He definitely lit something under their butts, and you got to look at Nathan McKinnon too, and Gabriel Landeskog. They are taking that team under their arms, even though they're youngsters. And you're right, goaltending has definitely been a help, and Patrick Waugh is clearly have a lot to do with that.
Even, I mean, the game against Toronto, Matt Duchene just looked, you know, unreal. Like, he had the puck, you know, and he was backing defensemen off him, and he was, you know, protecting it in the corners, and that's not really something I've seen from from him in the past. So I mean, he looks really good at the start of the season, and whether he carries that through, to make the Olympic team or not, or through the rest of the season anyway, you know, there's something Matt Duchene's doing that's just absolutely incredible too there.
Yeah, and Matt Duchene, like, where has he been though? Before Patrick Waugh was there, like, he was supposed to be the guy, but he wasn't. And now he is. And
see,
you gotta look at Waugh for lighting that fire.
At the start of last season, for instance, before the lockout, and they named Landeskog their captain, I was like, well, that's a shot against Matt Duchene. Where's his future in Colorado now, right? Because
But don't you think Landeskog deserved it more?
You know what? I haven't really been paying attention to the Avalanche until recently, because they were a bottom feeding team.
Yeah.
Right, and that proved in the way they finished last year, and they got first overall pick, and the high picks they've had, that they've got Landeskog and Duchene, and so I haven't really been watching them as closely as I have other teams.
Okay, you look at Colorado, who actually capitalized on that first pick, and then you go back to Edmonton, who's had it for 3 years straight, and they're still 14th in the Western Conference. And
yeah.
Even though they named 9 captains or the 6 alternates, you look, it's crazy, eh?
They're still a really young team. They're not going to use that as an excuse. I think the thing there is they need, Devin Dubnyk looked good in Ottawa the other night. Saturday night, he looked good in Ottawa, and if he plays that way for the rest of the year or better, right? He's got a couple of games for them, and him and their backup, I don't even know who the backup is, haven't looked good at all.
I think it's Jason LaBarbera.
Is it?
I think he's on there. I don't know if he's been using the backup. I think it's the third one. But what about the rumors, though, Ryan Miller or James Reimer then?
Yeah, they'd be good. I mean, Ryan Miller, I think, I'm not really sure he'd fit in that locker room. James Reimer would be probably a better fit for them as the younger goalie.
Yeah.
But
don't you want a veteran? Don't you want some vets? Who do you have there? Ryan Smith and their captain.
Andrew Ferentz.
Yeah.
Nick Schultz as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't count, Sam Gagner is only, 24 years old, but he's been in the NHL since, he was 18 or something, right? So he's got to be, a veteran guy, and I don't know. I think you're right, they do need some more leadership. But I think they need to go with the goalie that's playing better right now, and I think and the goalie that would fit better in their room, in James Reimer, just because of the age.
Are the Leafs willing to trade him though? I know they have Bernier.
Well, see, that's the thing is I'm not sure they'd be willing to trade him. I think they wanted to see Bernier step up and win the job outright before they do. As for, I think he'll be gone by the end of the season, because I don't think they have the means to re-sign him, even if the salary cap goes up with Dion Phaneuf still needing to be signed, and then, Cody Franzen has to be signed as well, and then next year Nazem Kadri, right? I don't think they have the cash to re-sign him, even if the cap goes up.
Yeah, but we talked earlier about Buffalo. If they're going to do a fire sale, is Edmonton not going to be able to swoop in there and pick up Ryan Miller?
I think they're going to ask. I think Buffalo's going to ask arm or leg and a head for Ryan Miller. I don't think they're going to. I don't think he's going to go. I don't think Edmonton. Let's look at their roster right now. If Buffalo went to Edmonton, was like, okay, we want to trade you, or Edmonton went to Buffalo and was like, we want to get Ryan Miller, what would Buffalo be asking for? If I was Buffalo, I'd go, one of these three, Nail Yakupov, who else?
Nugent or Hall?
Nugent, maybe even Justin Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Potter's still pretty young. Tyler Flick, right? Someone young enough that you can kind of rebuild your team around. Neil Yakupov would definitely be on the list, I think. Maybe even Jordan Eberle or Taylor or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. But I think Neil Yakupov would definitely be in the conversation.
Yeah. Like I think we're right on the nail that Buffalo eventually will be doing a fire sale, and Edmonton needs a goalie. Those are the improvements that both those teams need to do. Philadelphia, they're just off in the wickets right now. I don't know what they're doing. Their first step is getting Berube in there and seeing if the Flyers can adjust to his game and see if that can take them anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the improvements needed in those teams that are in the basements of the conferences right now.
What about, like, the New York Islanders have been playing pretty well, too, and, San Jose, Anaheim, they've all been playing, pretty good hockey from what I've seen of them.
Well, Anaheim got their butts handed to them in Game 1 of the season against Colorado and haven't lost since. And
yeah.
Even losing Bobby Ryan, this team is still stellar. They have 30 goals for, a difference of 11 goals between goals for and goals against. They're just dominating teams. And is it Bruce Boudreau? Like, he got the Capitals back. He definitely got the Capitals moving. And Anaheim they finished second in the last year, right?
How important was, and I'm not going to underplay that Bobby Ryan's a very good hockey player, but with, Ryan Getzlaf and some of the veterans they have there, and Corey Perry, and how important is, Bobby Ryan in that
he had
mix?
To be important. Like, before the shortened season, he had 4 straight 30-plus goal seasons. How is that not an important player?
Yeah, but how important would he be in the dressing room, right? Like, obviously he's very important on the ice, but in the dressing room, like in the room as a voice, obviously he'd have a bigger voice in Ottawa than he would in Anaheim with, the guys they have in Anaheim.
But right? It's not all about the dressing room, man. It's about it's also about the stats you put up. You gotta look at the goals.
To do something the way that Anaheim's done, you got good voices in the room too, right? Like, that's the thing. It's not always about the stats.
Yeah, but not everyone has to be the guy in the dressing room that turns everything on.
I just don't know if he, how important he was. It doesn't look like he was very important to that team if, they're 7-1 and they're looking like they're not going to be stopped anytime soon. Right?
No, I agree, and like obviously Anaheim is making up for it, but I'm just saying in those 4 years before the lockout, they definitely needed him then.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they need him now.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's move on to the rookies. You kind of mentioned. Actually, wait. Before we move on to the rookies, let's talk about Calgary, because I know you want to talk about Calgary and Sean Monahan. While we're in the Western Conference, they've, even though they're sixth in their division right now, they had a stellar start to the year. They went 6 games without a regulation loss.
Yeah. And now they're getting beaten up on the road trip.
Yeah, in California.
Yeah, and the California road trip, or the Western Conference, like Southwestern Conference road trip, it's a heck of a battle. You have LA, and you have Anaheim, you have Phoenix, you have San Jose, and you look at all 4 of those teams, and they're just dominating the Western Conference right now. Like San Jose, Anaheim, and Phoenix, those make up the top 3 in the Pacific Division right now. LA is the top in the wild card.
Yeah.
And it's a heck of a swing to do. Ottawa went through it, and they got beat up in all the games as well.
Yeah, that division, that Pacific Division looks early on like it's going to be the toughest division in the NHL this year.
And it's no doubt that it will be. Like, if you you throw in Vancouver as well,
Mm-hmm.
and then like Calgary and Edmonton almost have no chance of finishing the top three for the next, I don't know, decade. Like it it just doesn't look promising for those two teams. They need to hope to heck that someone in the Central screws up and they can swoop in and grab a wild card, but it's just not going to be fun for Flames and Oilers fans for the next few years.
Okay, so let's move on to rookies now, as there's been some very good, promising stories for rookies. And let's start, while we're on the Calgary subject, let's start with Sean Monahan. How has he been in Calgary this year?
Well, he has been awesome. I'm just trying to look up his stats quickly.
He's got 6 goals, 3 assists, and 9 points.
Yeah, how many has he got?
9. He's got points in 8 games.
Yeah. Like I said in our last episode, that Sean Monahan was staying in Calgary, and that's because Calgary doesn't have the team to support. That doesn't support Sean Monahan, and the 67s don't need him, and they're moving on with him.
They don't need him?
Well, obviously they would love to have him, but they're not going to get him back, so that they've learned to live without him. Tonight would be Monahan's last game with Calgary if he does go back. So
tomorrow would be the day they would send him back.
Yeah, so tonight would be his last game.
Yeah.
I just don't see Calgary sending him back. Like he's been stellar. He's been a difference maker in a lot of the games that they've played so far. 9 points in 8 games for a rookie, for a guy who's only 19. Like when was the last time we saw a debut like this?
Like Sidney Crosby, I want to say, but
I would assume it was Sidney Crosby, but is Sean Monahan actually rivaling Sidney Crosby right now? Like, why would Calgary send him back?
He's second in the team in scoring as well, right?
Yeah.
He's averaging 15 minutes a game, just over 15 minutes a game, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and against LA, he was on for 21 minutes. When you put a rookie, a 19-year-old on against LA, who was the second-place team in the Western in the playoffs, like, you got to have some faith in this kid, and the Flames do.
Yeah, and he's been playing, he had 3 points against San Jose, he had 3 points against Montreal. He's looked really good so far this year, and I think you're right. He's, out of everybody other than Nathan MacKinnon, who, Patrick Waugh already said was staying, he looked like the player that's going to stay and perform very well there all year long. And, I think it's going to be a rough year in Calgary. They've got a bright light there, and maybe even, he's better than the 3 big names in Edmonton. Right?
I wouldn't disagree. Like, because Hall and Nugent Hopkins and Everly, what have they done? Like, they have not got Edmonton even remotely close.
No.
Like last year was their closest, and they finished 10th or 11th still. Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying that Calgary's going to do something and make the playoffs this year just on Sean Monahan's back. That's for sure.
No, and I don't think it's fair to put a team on a rookie's back like that. But he's definitely going to be a difference maker in that organization. For maybe he becomes the next a Joe McKinley of the organization, right? Where he's there for 15 plus years or however long.
Yeah, it's totally going to be up to him after like a contract expires or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, as if he doesn't see that Calgary's actually doing something in the years that he's there, I don't see him staying there.
No, and I think he'd want to win.
Yeah, he does want to win.
What about Nathan MacKinnon, and how do you think he's been playing in the NHL?
He's only got a goal and 6 assists, but he's definitely been a difference maker on a team that is an early surprise in this league. The Colorado Avalanche were not meant to be where they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
They were not meant to start like that.
See,
go ahead.
the difference between him and Sean Monahan is, Sean Monahan doesn't really have any. They've got some big names. Yeah, they've got Alex Tongay and Yuri Hudler and stuff, but Calgary doesn't have any big names that Colorado has, and Duchesne and Landeskog and Paul Stastny, right? And that Nathan McKinnon kind of slid in behind. Has been able to perform well behind and not really get noticed by the other team. Like, you're developing a game plan, say, against Calgary, you're focusing on, Sean Monahan because right now he's their best player. But Nathan McKinnon, he's been good, yes, but he's not been, he's not a key focal point to, Colorado, right?
No, and McKinnon definitely has a lot to learn still. I know Colorado came out on top of the battle of the Cole Harbour and Nova Scotia teams last night, but I don't think that'll happen every time, that's for sure.
Well, it's funny because, from what I've heard from people that I know that have lived in Cole Harbour is no one in Cole Harbour likes Sidney Crosby, right? No one in Cole Harbour likes Nathan McKinnon, right? They think they're pricks. So I think the whole, their town's so proud of them. They're not. They don't care. Like, it's just it's funny that people are, battling up and stuff, and it's a selling for the NHL, but it's not true.
They're jealous, Alex.
They're what?
I say they're jealous.
I don't even know if they're jealous. I don't, as far as I know, no one likes Sidney Crosby, like, in Cole Harbour. Right? Like, there might be a couple, but, and I'm probably going to offend people saying that, but, from who I've talked to is he's not a fan favorite like he's made out to be in his hometown. Right? So, you saying, the Battle of Cole Harbour, it's not a big deal. It's the battle number one for me. Right? Like, it'll be more interesting to see when, Colorado plays Edmonton, for instance, and the last three number ones against the number one from last year. Right? Like, that'll be a more interesting battle for me than, the Battle of Cole Harbour.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Anyways, let's move on. How do you think Morgan Riley's looked in Toronto?
Pardon?
How do you think Morgan Riley has looked in Toronto?
He's definitely working to earn himself a spot. He had a pretty stellar preseason, if I'm not mistaken, and he's definitely stepped up for Fraser's absence. So I think he's probably there to stay. Is eventually when Fraser comes back, a seventh defenseman. I don't know if he cracks the top six though.
See, I think that's a mistake. If you're gonna have a rookie on your team and practicing with you every day, he's got. And for me, right now, Morgan Riley's been good, yes, and he's made some exceptional plays. But watching him night in and night out, there's still stuff he really needs to learn and work on. And it was the same thing with Nazem Kadri when Nazem Kadri came in. Being hailed as the next great, Maple Leaf. Even like Luke Chen, for instance, right? Like after his rookie year, everyone was hailing him as the next captain, and then, 3 years later, I think he got traded, or however long, he was in Toronto for. I don't think they should rush Morgan Riley. I think he should go back. He should play, for the World Junior team and be a leader in that team. And work on things that he needs to work on.
Yeah, it definitely does suck for a rookie trying to crack into the game to sit on the bench or sit in the media box to watch the games. But
is that where they sit? Do they sit in the media box?
Yeah, they do. I remember last season when PK Subban had his little spat with the Habs. He was pretty much sitting right beside me for Montreal's first game in Ottawa.
He's a douchebag too.
I knew you'd say that. But yeah, I agree. Morgan Riley does need ice time, but do you send him back down to Major Junior to get that ice time, or do you say, hey kid, we can put you in 20, 30 games up here, like you're gonna get experience here? Like, I don't know.
He has been playing 18 minutes a game, but again, some of the glaring defensive weaknesses, as it's you can't overlook that, and push comes to shove, would you rather have a guy like Fraser, like Mark Fraser, who when you're competing for a playoff spot, like I expect Toronto to be competing, in those last two wildcard spots, would you rather have the experienced hand of a Mark Fraser, or the green rookie of Morgan Riley, right? Like, who is gonna make mistakes that maybe Mark Fraser wouldn't?
No, you would definitely want Mark Fraser, but you could still, maybe by January or February, by the Olympic break, Morgan Riley isn't that glaring a defenseman making the glaring mistakes.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, with only a 9-game audition, I don't think the Leafs should take the chance on him. I think we should wait another year until he can be sent to the Marlies if need be, or not back to Major Junior, and recalled or whatever, right? Like, that's just how I see it. Because I mean, if they send him back after 9 games, he's only played 7 so far, so he's got 2 more games. They send him back after 9 games, and then they do like an emergency recall when they're in Edmonton or Calgary or something later. Then he plays that 10th game. Does that burn? Like, I don't know how the agreement works, but would that burn that year on his contract? Right, you got that too, so. Right?
Yeah, but they need him right now, so they're going to bring him to the 9-game mark, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's
coming back.
He started skating, I think.
Okay, yeah.
So there's not necessarily. I know the Marlies have quite a few defensemen that are, 20 years old and are, able to kind of step into that role for a few games if someone gets hurt, right?
Right.
So it might not be up to just Morgan Riley. And worst comes to worst, they could always just be called, John Michael Lyles.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. I like Morgan Riley. I like the kid, and he's doing his best to definitely stay in the game and keep things going.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. You're right. He probably will get better staying in the major juniors back with the Marlies than he would with the Leafs and not playing.
Yeah, I think
just anyway. Skating practices, it's different than skating games, right?
Yeah, for sure. Has there been any other rookies that have really stood out? Ryan Murphy's been playing well in Carolina. Boone Jenner's been playing very well in Columbus, along with Ryan Murray. Is there any other rookies that you can think of that have jumped out? And
not really. Like, I haven't honestly watched that much, but even though I have center ice and everything, no rookies have really jumped right out at me and said and taken this league by storm. Like, Sean Monahan is the only one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about Morgan Riley and we talked about Nathan McKinnon.
I do have a question for you. What do you think of Jonathan Drouin being sent back to Halifax?
I don't know. Like, it's the same argument that you're having with Morgan Riley. Like, you're going to get more playing time with the Mooseheads, and you're going to be on a team that's actually competing and actually winning and actually doing stuff. So, should you not be with a team that you can learn more from before you jump back to the NHL?
And be the guy that leads them, right? Instead of, someone that's following.
Instead of a guy that's playing maybe 15 minutes a game, right?
Yeah, playing, 21, 22 minutes a night would definitely be more.
Exactly.
But how will the Mooseheads be this year? I know, they won the Memorial Cup last year, and had an unreal year, but without Nathan McKinnon and Jonathan Drouin, how are they really going to be going into this year? All right.
I mean, they dominated the Q last year. I can't see just a couple players doing like
all of that,
screwing up the map. Yeah, exactly. Like McKinnon did have a pretty good Memorial Cup, but so did Drouin. Like,
so right now the Moosehead are 9-7.
Which is not bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
Like, you're going to make it to the playoffs because the Q does.
Yeah.
Q does some crazy playoffs, but I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
Anyone can come out of any of those leagues, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
Like,
well, I know the Peterborough Pete's have been playing well, and Belleville hasn't.
And the General, like the Oshawa General. Like,
yeah.
What? They weren't supposed to even compete.
Yeah.
Like.
What else do we have to talk about? Oh, let's kind of touch on early, because it's early still. Let's talk about some, early favorites for the Olympic team going into this year. So obviously we have our locks of Sidney Crosby, Jonathan Taves. Roberto Luongo has been playing well. Do you think he's going this year?
I would think so. Who else do you have that's going to beat him out? Is Corey Crawford going to beat him out? Maybe
Carey Price. Maybe even Mike Smith. Mike Smith's had a pretty good year too, right?
Yeah, maybe. Like, Mike Smith can even score goals for Canada.
That's very true. Very true.
And it'd be Mike Smith, I would say, his last chance. Like, he's 31. Like,
you know what? I think they're going to go in goaltending. I think it's going to go Carey Price, Roberto Luongo, and Mike Smith. And no, that's not the order I think they're going to be on the depth chart. I think those are the four. And or three, yeah. And then I think Corey Crawford or Mike Smith could go, but I don't think Corey Crawford's as good as Mike Smith is. Personally.
And I would agree with that. I think Mike Smith has consistently been putting up the numbers for the last few seasons, right?
Yeah.
So give it to a guy that
he had a bit of an off year last year or the year before. He had an off year, but he's been really good, and he's been the reason the Phoenix Coyotes are in third in their division right now and made the playoffs 2 years ago and went deep into the playoffs, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like his off year last year would have been, if I'm looking at his stats right now, a .916 save percentage and a .283 goals against average, and that 283 has been the highest since he was with the Lightning. So.
Yeah,
it's definitely not that bad of an off year.
No, and so I mean, I think looking at the stats and looking at who's been playing better, I think right now Mike Smith's got the upper hand. I think Carey Price and Roberto Luongo are locks in net though.
Yeah, unless Corey Price goes on the slump that he was to finish last year, but I think that slump last year was because he was hurting late.
Yeah, for sure. What about defense? What do you think of defense? I'd have to look this up to make sure I'm.
Yeah, I know. It's
completely
who's Canadian and who's American again?
Yeah, well, I want to make sure I'm, factually correct here when I'm.
Yeah, well, there's some guys that you have to look at and be like, he's a lock. Like,
like Brian Campbell, or not Brian Campbell,
and Drew Doughty.
Drew Doughty, yeah, Drew Doughty's a lock. Who am I thinking of? Of Duncan Keith and maybe even Brent Seabrook. If they go the same kind of route they went in 2010, where they had guys to play together all the time, right? Like, they're both locks, I think.
Yeah.
I think those are the only locks that maybe even Shea Weber. Shea Weber's a lock. He's got.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at Alex had a good start this season. P.J. Subban, he was a Norris Trophy. I hate the guy, but he was a Norris Trophy winner last year. Even Dion Phaneuf's been, and I know there's a lot of Dion Phaneuf haters out there, but Dion Phaneuf's been fairly good for the Leafs, right? And Kevin Bieksa and even like Josh Georges or
there's quite a few you could pencil into those third, fourth, like those spots from 3 to 6, right? Or 4 to 6 even.
Yeah, or 4. I think taking 8 defensemen in total, right?
Right.
So 4 to 8.
Like who's actually going to play? Like you can bring guys I don't know.
It's interesting to kind of see Cody Franzen, who's not necessarily on anybody's radar, has had had a really good season last year, and looks like he's just picked up where he left off. And he's even playing with Morgan Riley, who I think has been dragging him down a little bit. Being the rookie and that's just because he hasn't I don't think he's ever played with a rookie before, and he's never been kind of the guy who needs to kind of teach the rookie how to play in the NHL.
Mm-hmm. It's certainly going to be interesting. We did talk about those locks, like Drew Doughty's going. There's no doubt about that. And
Shea Weber for sure.
Shea Weber, yeah, I would consider him a lock as well. But the biggest race up front, is Jerome McGinley going again?
No, there's no way.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think he's had a very good start to the year in Boston.
2 points in 7 games.
He has how many points? Sorry,
I think good start. 2.
Yeah, he hasn't had a very good start to the year. Other than say, Crosby, Taves, John Tavares has looked very good this year. St. Louis and Stamkos, they're a dynamic duo in Tampa. I think Joffrey Lupul. You look at his even going into last season, he's had how many goals and how many games is I think it's 21 in 37 games or something. He's just played phenomenal.
Yeah, but will he be hurt by February? Probably.
He's had 17 goals in 25 games.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a he's got a, and with a team full of centers, how many centers are they going to take, right? And with an abundance of centermen in Canada, and I think he's gonna. I think if he's gonna make it, he's gonna be like a third or fourth liner, but I think they're gonna take him, looking at the stats. But then again, you have Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau and Logan Couture that have been playing phenomenal early on too.
Yeah, it's just it's too tough to nail down right now.
Yeah,
it's still too early in the season. Jerome McGinley could go on a swing and then tear in the next 3 weeks and easily make the Olympic team. And someone like St. Louis could drop off the radar, right? I
don't think St. Louis is gonna. I think St. Louis is a bad example for that because he plays on a nightly basis with Stamkos, who's an absolute scoring machine.
Well, what if Tampa goes in a slump?
That's true. I think Matt Duchene's going to go as well. From the early going, if I had to pick the team right now, Matt Duchene would be on the team, just because of the way he's played in Colorado.
Any of the Edmonton rookies?
Edmonton rookies?
Or
Edmonton players?
Sophomores? Any of the Edmonton teams, since they're all 5 years?
Maybe someone like Jordan Eberle, just because of what he's done in the past for Canada, and you can't overlook that either. In the World Juniors,
they've all done something for Canada, pretty much in the World Juniors, right?
Yeah, but Ryan Nugent-Hopkins didn't really do anything this year in Russia, right? He was a good player, but where was he when Canada was down in the semifinals and losing, right? Like, those are the moments I'm looking at. You look at someone like John Tavares and Jordan Eberle who scored that goal in Ottawa, and then again the next year. I mean, that's to skill, right?
Yeah.
Like you score 2 or 3 goals in that manner. That's a very clutch player in a very clutch situation. And I bring someone like Jordan Eberle just because of what he's done in the past for Canada. I think he deserves a chance to play. Not so much Taylor Hall, because Taylor Hall's just a plug. Right now he's playing like a plug. And he's hurt now too. He's going to be out for 6 weeks.
Yeah, so he's not going to earn a spot, but definitely consider the others, like, for sure.
Yeah. What else? Let's talk about, before we move on to baseball, which I'm not really going to talk about. Let's talk about the suspensions that have happened so far this year. So, in the regular season, Cody McLeod got suspended for hitting Nicholas Cronwall. Michael Grabner got hit. Gerber, Buffalo player, he got a game. Max Lapierre got 5 for hitting Brent Burns. No, Dan Boyle. Was it Dan Boyle?
Yeah.
Patrick Coletta got 10. Alex Edler got 3. Brad Stewart got 3. Let's start with the only hit I've really looked at over and over again is the Maxim Lapierre hit on Dan Boyle. So I want to kind of start there. Do you think it was worth 5 games?
I don't know. That's the one where his face went off the dashboard, no?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I saw it, and if his face doesn't go off the dashboard, like, that's not an injury, right? Like, it's not that big of a hit. I just don't know. Like, it was just a bad place at the wrong time.
And if even in the NHL video, which I watched, was Shanahan mentions that Dan Boyle's toe hits the dasher, like the bottom of the boards, and he trips up, and then Lapierre, like when Boyle's tripping, Lapierre's too close to not finish his hit. Yeah. Right?
So, maybe, like, again, it's a bad, like I said, wrong place, wrong time. But 5 games, like, at the beginning of the season, 5 games doesn't matter, but close to the end of the season, 5 games.
Well, that's still quite a, like, I don't think that he should have been suspended at all, and I think, Lapierre was just finishing his hit. And there was nothing else he could do that Boyle fell.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think we're on the same page here for almost once.
Yeah. What did you think of the Patrick Coletta suspension?
I honestly can't recall the actual play. But 10 games, like,
it looked
again, like,
it looked almost like a Matt Cook type of on Mark Savard type hit. That's what it looks like. So, and Patrick Coletta's a repeat offender. That's why he got.
Yeah, exactly. If he wasn't a repeat offender, it wouldn't be.
No, because Michael Grabner is that hit's kind of the same, and he only got 2 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's just it's a dangerous hit, absolutely, but that's just a repeat offender versus a non-repeat offender. And did you see the Cody McLeod on Nicholas Cronwall?
No, I didn't. I'm telling you, I didn't watch that much hockey yet.
Oh yeah, you've been in the process of moving and stuff.
Moving and sleeping.
That it's Cronwall's kind of going to play the puck in the corner, and McLeod, whatever his name is, finishes his hit, and again, Cronwall goes off the side of the top of the boards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what I have noticed is the stretchers have been brought out a lot, right?
Yeah.
And that's, like, the NHL's trying to get away from scenes like that. So,
Yeah. Well,
when someone leaves on a stretcher, they're gonna hand down some punishment. And that's what they've been doing.
one thing they do, and this is my issue, and this isn't just the NHL. It's minor hockey. It's the OHL. It's it's every league. Have you seen the equipment that the players are wearing these days? Right, and they want to talk about taking. There's after the George. Well, we didn't talk about George Peros either. The George Peros
right.
and Colton Orr. But after the George Peros thing happened, and then the same thing happened like a couple nights later. They're reinvigorating they're bringing back the fighting debate, and you can give stiffer penalties for fighting. You're not going to remove fighting from the game because look at the equipment that the players are wearing, right? Like stage fights, I get you can take those out, but I mean the elbow pads, they're hard plastic, like hard plastic, and a player wearing hard plastic, I mean, yeah, it's to protect your elbow from falling or from hurting yourself, but if you hit someone, by even accident hard enough with the hard plastic shell, you're gonna hurt them, and most of the fighting that I've seen this year has come out of big dangerous hits because players are too well protected for themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And the George Peros thing, like honestly, Colton Orr, like he was falling and pulled Peros down, and that's how that injury happened.
Yeah, that was.
It had nothing to do with fighting.
That was a freak out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could have happened in a hit, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you
but
hitting out of the game, no. So the fighting debate is just stupid.
It is really stupid, and if you remember the hit, Dion any really hit, but the one I'm thinking of is the one against Ottawa where he caught the Ottawa player cutting across center, right? If Dion was wearing the soft pads that they used to wear, he'd hurt himself more than he'd hurt that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the way, and the way the padding's designed is so that it can absorb all this energy or whatever, and not hurt your body, but you're hurting other players by wearing it. And unless we figure out how to make the padding softer, then there's still going to be the issue of everyone's going to be getting hurt. And if you see a big hit, you want to jump in and defend your teammate, right? And that won't curb fighting.
But like honestly, those are the fights that even irk me. Like, come on, someone can't hit a player now, and then it starts a fight. Like, that's
the difference is like a clean hit and a dangerous hit, right? Like the hit that I was talking about.
There is fights after clean hits now, and
exactly. But
stop that.
For instance, this hit on Nicholas Cromwell on Saturday night or whenever it was. I could see a fight after that because that was a dangerous hit, right? Whereas, the Dion Phaneuf hit I was talking about was completely clean. Even on the bench, the player that got hit was like, yeah, that was my fault. I had my head down, right? Like that, and there was a fight after that hit too, right? Like, I mean, it just seems like players are turning to fighting, every chance they get, right? After big hits.
I know.
And defend teammates after a dangerous hit, but after a clean hit, like it's.
Well, I get it. Like if your teammate gets hit and your teammate stays down, then I would step in. But if they get right back up, either let them defend themselves, or if they're skating away, why don't you skate away?
I don't know, and it's there's a story from refereeing when I was being supervised for a game, and the player got hit, and it went into the boards awkwardly, and dislocated his shoulder. And I'm skating by him, and I hear him go, to the linesman go, that was my fault. I dislocated my shoulder. That was, it was completely my fault because of the way, I didn't protect myself well enough. And I got after the game, and the supervisor came down and was like, that player was hurt. That should have been a major, for whatever, for boarding, right? Like, you have to call that. And I was like, but the player said that it was his own fault, right? Like, that's, and the hit I'm thinking of, I think it was on Steven DaCosta. Is that right? Stefan DaCosta. Yeah. And, DaCosta was like, that was my fault, right? Like, there shouldn't be a fight after a hit like that from Dion Phaneuf. Right? Like, Dion Phaneuf shouldn't have to defend himself because of a hit that was completely clean. Right?
No, he shouldn't. I agree.
I don't know.
It's fights like those that ruin the game. The fights that when you're down 2 or 3 nothing or down 2 or 3 goals and the other guy wants to go, right? Like,
yeah.
Do that. Pump up the team.
The staged fights, like, that George Locke one that's famous where, he's mic'd up and the guy goes, you want to fight? And the guy goes, George Locke goes, good luck. Like, have to leave the game. Those, I understand, have to leave the game.
Yeah.
But to have someone, get hurt, like Nicholas Cromwell did, and then not have a reaction from your team, I mean, it's a very, team-oriented sport. If you're going to hurt my guy intentionally. And it's the same thing with David Clarkson. That's why I get what he did, jumping off the bench. Right?
There's already 5 guys on the ice, Clarkson. Like, settle down.
Yeah, obviously. But, I mean, to defend your teammate, like, I get that. I played the game. But at the same time, you got something with those stage fights.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
All right. Do you want to talk about the World Series really quick?
We can if you want.
Let's go for it.
Cardinals and the Bo Sox. God, Blue Jays fans, you gotta hate it. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, Farrell is in the World Series.
Yeah.
And definitely has a chance to win it.
Yeah.
Like, when they came back, when Big Papi hit that grand slam in Game 2, I think it was, against Detroit. That was the turning point of that series.
Yeah, and the grand slam in the final in Game 6 as well, right? Like,
yeah. Like,
I think Farrell's done a good job with Boston this year. I haven't really been watching baseball closely, but they seem to be buying into what he's selling, right? And what he's doing.
For sure. And if John Farrell stayed in Toronto, like, Toronto wouldn't have been that much better. I don't think.
I don't know about that because you can't really compare 2 styles, right? Like John Gibson has a really different style than Farrell.
John Gibbons is so laid back. It doesn't I don't know what he actually does, but
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, John Farrell definitely sucks for Jays fans, and most Jays fans are going to be cheering for the Cardinals. But I think the Red Sox are going to take it.
You think the Red Sox are going to take it? Well, just because you said that, I'm going to say the Cardinals are going to take it. I think the Cardinals they've got a solid team.
They do have a solid team. Adam Wainwright is a pretty solid pitcher. He's playing Game 1. But the Cardinals struggled to close out the Dodgers. Well, a game. But I don't know if you can close out the Red Sox. We'll have to see. Red Sox go from the basement of the AL East to the World Series championship. And it was, I believe, against the Cardinals that the Bo Sox won in 03, right? 04?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I see the Bo Sox taking this one and winning the World Series. Much to the dismay of every Blue Jays fan in all of Canada.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of, this will be the World Series that I actually, I'll watch. just because it's the World Series. It's like, I pay attention to the NFL, but I don't really watch a game until, the Super Bowl. Just
I know, me too.
right, like I pay attention to storylines. I know Kansas City's playing really well this year. I know that the Giants suck and the Eagles suck.
Yeah.
The
Giants got their first win of the season last night, so they suck.
Yeah, and it was against like Cleveland too, wasn't it? Someone else is playing really bad.
1-5.
Who was it against?
Minnesota, who's 1-5 now.
Yeah, it was against a team that's not playing well.
They only had one win.
Yeah, Jacksonville's not playing very well either.
No surprise.
No. Tampa Bay's not playing well. They haven't won a game yet.
Yeah. You gotta watch hockey in Canada, right, Alan?
Yeah, obviously. Well,
I
I bought the NHL package as well.
Yeah, so did I. And it's the only one I'll ever buy. There's no way in heck I'll buy extra innings or the Sunday ticket or whatever it's called.
Well, the baseball one was like $250. I looked at it this year. It was so expensive.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't sit and watch a game that's not a Blue Jays game for the most part.
Yeah, I can't stand sitting down and watching baseball.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I don't know when the next show is going to be, as I'm pretty busy with school and other stuff, and this just kind of was like, hey, do you want to do a show? Let's do a show tonight, and it just kind of happened, so, yeah. All right, guys, do you have anything to say before we sign off here?
No, I'm all good, man.
Yeah? All right, well, I don't really have a very long spiel to finish this off because I didn't plan anything. But check out my other YouTube channel, Off by One Games. My roommates will get mad at me if I don't plug it, so go check that out. We do some funny Let's Plays. There's lots of stuff. There's not a lot of stuff up, but there's some stuff up that you can watch. Support me that way. Continue to watch this and future episodes. I'm going to try and get more people on. Matt's been really busy, and you have just moved. Greg's just moved back somewhere. I don't know. There's lots of stuff going on. I'm busy with school and refereeing and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Have a good night, and thanks for watching.